Linus Tech Tips coverage of CES 2015 is brought to you by Phantom Glass. Visit store.phantom.glass for the best darn screen protectors out there, as well as HyperX. So we're here in the Silverstone suite. These guys gave me a really hard time because I did not show up to their suite last year. They were like, Linus, bro, you missed all the way cool stuff, and you should really make sure that you come by in 2015. So I went, yeah, definitely, I will come, and I was not disappointed. So as you guys probably know if you watch my channel, I love small form factor machines. I actually recently checked out a Lee & case that I really wanted to, based on the initial picture I saw, really wanted to be kind of a console killer type box, and then I sort of pointed out a bunch of stuff that I really didn't like about it, and so Silverstone was kind of like, yeah, just a reminder, you should probably come to our suite. This looks absolutely fantastic. Now, there were some complaints about the RVZ01 that it was a little bit too big, but in Silverstone's defense, the RVZ01 supports a dual 120mm liquid cooling radiator, and you can actually do a custom loop in the thing, in addition to supporting 2.5-inch SSDs and 3.5-inch hard drives. But some people crave smaller and are willing to sacrifice that stuff, and for those, there's the RVZ02. So in the front, you've got a Slimline optical drive, and really not a whole lot else. You got a couple front USB 3 as well as front panel audio behind a little sliding door. Then on both sides, this is kind of, wow, this is the only one in the world, isn't it? I will try not to break it any further than I already have. So then on this side, you find a plexi window right here that's got ventilation holes cut into it, right above the CPU, the CPU area of the motherboard, as well as the SFX power supply. And then on the other side, oh, she made it. Guys, this is a very early prototype, so don't judge the fit and finish of the case based on what I'm showing you here. On the other side, you've got actually the same panel. They are reversible, so you can switch them around if you want. And this one has the ventilation holes over the video card. So we'll start by taking this one off, since it happens to already be off because I'm a genius. And we can see that this is, you can actually install up to, what is this, like 13 inches? 11.5 inches. Okay, well, I'm not real good with the Imperial system. So you can put up to an 11.5-inch graphic card, which is pretty much anything you'd want as long as it's dual slot. And they've actually left an additional bit of space in the top, just in case you have heat pipes sticking out the top of your graphics card, or you've got these right-angle mounted PCI Express connectors as well. It's something I might personally prefer to see reduced in height and to just kind of push people towards reference cards, but I understand why Silverstone did it this way, because reference cards are becoming less and less common all the time. Also on the back here, you see the CPU cutout for the motherboard, so you don't have to worry about remembering to install that first. And let's go ahead and have a look at what's on the inside. So I'll just slide this off, try not to break it any more than I already have. And the internal layout here is extremely compact. So you can see the Slimline optical. You can see there's two toolless 2.5-inch drive cages up here at the top. We're using a PCI Express. It looks like yep, so that's a PCB base, so that's like a hard-mounted PCI Express riser coming out of the PCIe 16X slot on the ITX motherboard that's mounted in here. You can fit any standard ITX board, although the Zotac one they've got in here is a little funny. It's got like SODIMM memory. And then the power supply. Now, it takes an SFX power supply, but this is a bit of a unique power supply mount in this way. Now, Silverstone has a whole range of SFX power supplies with these little, 80mm slim fans, and sometimes they can be a little bit loud, especially once they start working harder, but they've actually developed, for this additional space above the unit here, a new form factor power supply called SFX-L. So this is their 500-watt SX500LG, and now we get a 120mm fan and a fully modular interface on a power supply that has the same rear footprint as an SFX power supply. It's just a little bit deeper. So for some of their cases, RVZ01 is another example of one that will work with it. For some cases, you will actually be able to install these new, only sort of a standard SFX-L power supplies in order to get potentially quieter cooling, as well as, well, I guess that's probably just about it. That's about the only advantage. All right, so now let's move on to the SG13. In this case, if there were a couple places on the RVZ02 that I kind of went, yeah, you guys could have probably squeezed another inch here, another 2 inches there. This one that is not the case at all. The entire front of the case is mesh. You got 2 USB 3 ports as well as front panel audio. The power switch is on the top, and then I can't show you guys too much from the outside, but I'll go ahead and get this open in a minute. On the back, you can see this one supports full-sized ATX power supplies. You've also got the I/O cutout for the motherboard, as well as up to a dual slot graphics card right here. The sides are all pretty much mesh, so there's your intake for your graphics card on that side. There's more mesh on the top, so that's going to, I don't know, be, I guess, passive exhaust would be my guess, based on that the front of the case supports a 120 or 140 millimeter fan. On this side, you've got a little bit more ventilation near the graphics card, and then let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. They did not waste, as far as I can tell, pretty much a single millimeter on this case. Also, a very early sample, so don't judge it based on that I can't get it apart. So I'm going to show you guys like exactly what's going on here. So you've got 2.5-inch drive mounts on the top. So you go ahead and put a screw through the top here, and they sit on the underside here, just above the graphics card and just to the side of the power supply. You've got another 3.5-inch drive mount on the bottom. So this has got the holes here. You go ahead and mount that on the bottom right next to the motherboard. So it looks like there's almost no space. It's almost touching the motherboard right there. In the front, you can see that 120 millimeter, 140 millimeter mount, and then you might be looking at this going, well, hold on a second, if the power supply goes all the way down to here, I'm not going to have any room for a decent CPU cooler. That is exactly why they wanted the extra space for that 140 mil fan in the front. You can actually put an AIO liquid cooler in here. There's another little funny thing about the front as well. So you can see the dust filter here. You can also see a cutout in the front to allow this case to accept up to a 10.5-inch graphics card. So you could feasibly put a GTX Titan Black Edition into a case that has the same internal volume as the Cooler Master Elite 110, a case that's limited to, I think it's a 7.5-inch graphics card max. Not a tiny bit of wasted space, and but just in case, you know, you need a little bit of help with cable management, given that there's almost no space in it, they've also updated their Strider S series. So last year, they made them shorter than ever, in spite of the fully modular interface. This year, they're making them even shorter than that. Okay, so it's not the most exciting sounding thing in the world, but another centimeter here is another little bit of more cable management room you're going to have to fit your system into this case. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for the highlights of the Silverstone suite here, guys. I do want to do a special call out for our sponsors, Phantom Glass. These guys make darn good screen protectors. They're Gorilla Glass, so you have that same feel as your regular glass on your phone. They're also pretty much impossible to apply without doing it perfectly, thanks to their nano coating on the bottom. They're also extremely scratch resistant. Totally awesome stuff. Store.phantom.class. We'll have that linked in the video description. Also, a shout out to HyperX. We wouldn't be here without them. They've got a great YouTube channel with lots of great gaming content these days. You guys are going to want to check that out as well by clicking on the little button. Also, since you're down there, make sure you click subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any of our CES 2015 content.